Thank you, Bayusak. I was told to get the perspective from the industry for this talk. So if you can just go to the next slide. I'm pretty sure that Pa Mustafid by this point has grown really tired of me asking for more and more incentives and how we can create value with a bid round. Okay, next slide. Okay, let me, I'm sorry, Pak Yustak, there won't be any geological slides in my presentation. So we'll go straight to global upstream capital budget. I got this from WoodMac. So we're looking at, this is something that we already know, right? And that the upstream, we're looking at the decrease in the upstream budget overall, like globally. At the peak of oil price, back when oil price was at about 110 in about 2012, 2013, in 2014, we were looking at about $100 billion in the upstream capital budget. It dropped drastically by about 70% in 2015 to only $30 billion, and in 2020, we're looking at even less than that, at $20 billion, and that's global. And the slide, the graph on the right, that shows you what it looks like, the post-pandemic landscape that we're going to be looking at. So in 2019, just look at the majors, the graph on the left, you're still looking at about 100 billion that's supposed to be spent in CapEx, and that was in 2019. And then the number tends to be steady in 2020, and it dropped significantly following COVID, following the pandemic, and then we also had the, obviously the economic crisis that came with it. And also, we saw the energy transition coming in. And if it wasn't difficult enough for us back in 2019, where we already saw the budget being dropped significantly from about 2014 to 2019, it will decrease even further, and we are on that trend that it will decrease. It's just going to be going downward from here. And this is despite the strengthening oil price. I mean, we're sitting at $80 oil now today, and it hasn't really made any significant impact to the upstream budget. Next slide. And exploration, the endangered breed. I like to think of myself as a panda. I am an endangered species. You don't see any exploration activities anymore. Like, and this is that is a global trend as well. We have the energy transition coming in, so oil companies are shifting their focus for reserve replacement, where it used to be about getting new blocks, getting new acreage, and adding reserves. The reserve replacement is going to be done through diversification to renewables. So we're not talking about replacing the barrels anymore, but we're talking about replacing the barrels with energy, and the source of energy that suits the upcoming energy transition landscape, just going to be renewables. And the primary focus as well, reserve replacement is being bumped down to, I think it's number 10 on the list. WoodMac published that study last year. And for the main focus for the upstream companies is CapEx optimization. And on top of that, why I am now pretty much endangered is because we still have discovered undeveloped resources. So be it from a producing field or fields that hasn't been developed but already discovered, we see the focus shifting just to optimize the production efforts. And this is in line with the our effort for the 1 million barrel per day, that we also see a big component of it will come from production optimization and not so much from exploration, not until 2030. And that's why I always said, well, yeah, I don't really have to worry about that now. I'll think about that later when the time comes. But you see the graph on the left, which is the exploration investment in the region. So this is Asia Pacific. I think I'm pretty sure my slide got cut off on the bottom. So that's Asia Pacific, including South Asia, so India and Pakistan. And we're looking at 66%. So this is very much in line with the upstream, with the decrease that we saw in the upstream budget, the global upstream budget. From 2014, we're down in 2018. I don't have the latest numbers from 2019 and 2020, but if you look at the first slide that I showed you, I bet it's going to be about half of it. And the license awards. So we're looking at a peak in 2014, and that's with Pakistan releasing the bid round in 2012, but then announcing the winners in 2014. And that was it. That was the last glorious era of oil and gas, isn't it? So because the trend again keeps going downward. 2018, we also saw a spike from India releasing their bid round. But it has been a very quiet 2 years, 2019, and 2020. Well, we know Indonesia didn't release the bid round in 2020 because of the pandemic, and it was only just released in 2021. Next. Next slide. Okay, so back to bid rounds, and why do we do bid rounds, and why do companies like doing bid rounds? It's cost efficient. So we can expand the portfolio with the new acreage that we get from the bid round because it's very much cost efficient. The asset itself is being valued at ground floor, and which means that it's going to be very cost effective for us. And usually we have a chance to do a thorough technical evaluation on the areas that's being offered on the bid rounds. And for companies that are already in the country, we have more leverage when we do more asset acquisition through bid rounds, because we already have the local knowledge, and the local knowledge doesn't stop at just your geological and geophysical knowledge, but it also comes with the commercial knowledge, even like the government relation or the community. We already have all the local knowledge that we know to operate in the area, and we have an extensive and established database of the block. Next slide. So I think we have seen this data from both Pak Mustafid and Pak Yustak, but this is slightly different, but I did borrow this from Migas from the presentation in 2021. So the one on the left is from direct offer, and from year to year, so the data stretched from 2006 to 2019. Every time a direct offer blocks get tendered, you see a 75% success rate, and this was also in Pak Mustafid's slide earlier. And while the regular blocks from 2006 to 2019, only 25% of them got bid, or and it ended up being awarded to a winning company. So most companies that took the initiative to do joint studies, in general, they will proceed to bidding. So it's almost a guarantee that once you have a block that goes on a joint study, and as long as when they present that joint study back to Migas and say, no, we like this block, please put this in the bid round, it will happen. I mean, the companies will then move forward and try to get the block awarded to them. Okay, next. So on the Indonesian bid round itself, for the existing players, this is like myself. I mean, Huskey's been in Indonesia for the past 3 decades, actually. So we started in the 80s in Sumatra area, and then we moved to East Java, and we've been there since. You can't really kick me out. So we have focus areas for the existing players, and we like to stay. We like when we try to do growth, we usually have focus areas, be it the basin where we already operate a block, or a new basin where we would like to grow our portfolio. And again, we have the local knowledge from both technical knowledge and non-technical knowledge as leverage. And what also we like about doing bid rounds is also if we can do a synergy with our existing assets, to a degree, it gives us chance for a quick monetization. So that's where bid rounds or getting blocks from bid rounds can create value. And for the new players, why they're attracted to bid round? And we saw a lot of new players coming into Indonesia in around 2010, 2011, and that was when the oil price was really high. You have, for new players, it is the easiest way to gain a country entry, or in some cases, industry entry, because I saw companies that had no experience in the oil and gas industry and was just like, trying to test the water and trying to get into the oil and gas business. That's how they usually get their blocks, because again, it is seen as a cost-efficient or cost-effective way. They're more focused on the geological potential, because the other local knowledge in itself, they don't really have it when it's a new player coming into the country. So they will really focus on the geological potential. But I suppose when I'm talking about low risk areas, that will go both to the existing players and the new players, and it's mostly controlled by my first two slides, where you really don't see the budget being spent in exploration anymore. We're going to stay focused on the low risk area, which comes to the question then, who will go to the frontier areas in Indonesia? Okay, so again, borrowing this from SKK Migas, this is the status in March 2021 for all of the oil and gas working area map in Indonesia. As you can see, North Sumatra Basin, Central Sumatra Basin, South Sumatra Basin, all of the mature basins, really good. I mean, we saw blocks there, and we saw blocks that has just been awarded, and that was in 2019, the likes of Andaman. Yeah, that's the hotspot. We saw another hotspot in Tarakan Basin. And we see companies that are still trying to get into the mature areas. The East Indonesia, however, there was ups and downs, and we saw a big influx of the majors going in there again around 2010, 2011. But then the drilling campaign throughout East Indonesia back then wasn't really successful. But Yusak can that's their own personal experience. Sorry, and it seems like people have lost the appetite for going to Eastern Indonesia. And on top of it, like Pak Nuju, I am actually a big fan of the Seram area that you showed earlier. I think the geological potential is definitely there, but I always the big obstacle that I always face with that area is, what am I going to do with the gas? Or what, if it's oil, it's fine, but if it's gas, what am I going to do? As a company, Huskey has mainly focused in East Java, in our core area, but that doesn't mean that we didn't look in the past to go frontier. But it always came down to the question of, if we discover gas, what are we going to do with it? And it's going to be most likely going to be gas. And I know that we are not the only company who has that concern. And again, we are looking at a very budget-conscious exploration program. And again, Pak Yusak can tell you how much it costs to drill one well in Eastern Indonesia, and how much it can really cost. And whether it's worth doing that, or we should just play it safe and do exploration in our neck of the woods, in our backyard, where we know what's there. We think we know the area. But yeah, that goes back to the question of who will go frontier. We put our hopes on the majors, obviously, and again, we have seen the majors going there, and they have pulled out from the area since 2012. So next slide. Yeah, I think I've worked a lot with Pak Mustafid's team from Migas, and this is through IPA as well, and we kept giving feedbacks, and I can't tell you just how much we're so thankful for the improvements that we saw in this bid round, but the fact that we did not have a significant or an encouraging response from the first bid round, it probably shows us that we need more. Benny Lubiantara once said that we need something radical, and improvement is fine, but we need a radical improvement. The improvements that we saw from this bid round, the FTP decreasing from 20% to 10%, the full price DMO, what else is there? We saw the no relinquishment in 3 months, the better split and the flexibility to choose the fiscal terms. That's great, but how does that translate to the prospectivity or to the economics of my project? Does it have that dramatic, significant impact that we want to see? The answer is not really. So we have a little bit more of the input for our so if we can probably expedite and simplify joint study process, given that we looked at the joint study success rate, and it's very encouraging. So probably that's where we should focus on. And the open area bid. How about if you just leave it to the companies to decide which blocks that can be offered, or draw their own boundaries for the blocks that they want to offer, but instead of going through a joint study process, they can bid on that block right away. And again, the fiscal terms. We need a breakthrough, and we need radical changes. So, and we need to think about those that are already here, and I think that's what we need to focus on, the companies that are already here, because they're more likely to reinvest in Indonesia. Again, my last slide. Well, yeah, so just 2 words from me, just please be competitive. I mean, and I'm saying this for the sake of myself as well. As I said, we're dying breeds. Exploration won't get any more funding, and we won't get any more. It's going to be very difficult to get the exploration budget. So unless I can convince people in my company to say that look at Indonesia, they have done some radical changes, and I think we can really create value in Indonesia. That's the only way I can convince them. I think that's it from me, Pak Yustak. Thank you.